I live in Lansing, Michigan. I have lived there for almost 15 years. There's a lesbian community there which I, along with many others, have worked to create, grow, and maintain. This community has been shaped in many ways by lesbians who are separatist, though being separatist does not mean the same thing to all of us. I'm proud of the lesbian community in the town I live in. I move in that community with a strong and satisfying sense of shared accomplishments. I want to talk a bit about the community tonight. Two things have happened recently in my community that have generated a lot of feeling and a lot of talk. The two things weren't causally connected with each other. They just happened to happen close to each other. About a week ago, a lesbian in my own town committed suicide. She did it decisively and deliberately. The other thing is that Sarah Hoagland's recent presentation in Lansing triggered open conflict about the value of the 12-step program to individual dykes and as an influence in the community. Both of these things, the suicide and the conflict, focused my attention on lesbian community, what it is, how it works, what kind of glue holds it together. Probably the most obvious thing about what makes this community a community is that it is not that we agree on everything. There is, in fact, much disagreement on practically everything. Here's a list of some things there is not agreement on in my community. We do not agree on the importance of recycling jars and papers or on whether it's okay to have a Christmas tree. We do not agree about what the priority is on working against US imperialism in Central America, or on working against nuclear power and nuclear weapons, or on working for legal and available abortions. We do not agree on whether the practice of friendship requires remaining supportive or even civil to lesbians who go straight, or requires active support of lesbians who have male babies. We all say that we are against racism, but we do not agree at all about what it is or what to do about it. We do not agree about whether it's okay to wear skirts and dresses, to shave our legs, to get permanents, to wear makeup. We don't agree about whether 12-step programs are wholesome for dykes or whether it's okay to practice or to purchase therapy. We do not agree about how much of the Lesbian Alliance's funds should be donated to the Sharon Kowalski Fund, or about whether the Lesbian Alliance and the ambitious Amazons should try to work together more. We don't agree about what kinds of behavior between lovers are okay and what kinds are terrible. We do not agree about whether there is still any such thing as women's music or about whether the Olivia Caribbean cruises are absurd. Olivia Caribbean cruises are absurd. We don't agree about how important it is to have events, activities, and homes accessible to wheelchair users, or about whether it's okay to drink alcohol, to go to weddings, to like your father or brother, or to de-dyke your house when your parents visit, to get a hot tub or a nice car if you can afford it, to watch TV, or to go to a male dentist. We do not agree about hamburgers. And this is only a few of the things we don't agree about in my community. I'm sure I don't even know what some of the things are that we don't agree about. We might suppose that there is agreement among us on some other level, and I suppose it too. But the issue about 12-step programs have made me doubt it. I thought that in spite of all our differences about specific actions and practices, what held us together was something some of us have called quote unquote ethical compatibility, some deep likeness of ethical and political intuition. I have thought something like that underlay our lesbianism, our desire for each other. But now I'm thinking that within my community there is not even a significant likeness of basic ethical and political intuition. So, what is there? What holds us in community? The answer seems to be either one, nothing holds us in community, or two, I've asked the wrong question. I opt for two. What I'm getting at here is that it's the natural, normal thing for women to be connected and sustained in community with each other, and it has nothing in particular to do with agreeing about anything or even liking each other. It certainly doesn't have anything in particular to do about approving of each other. Instead of looking for something like common values to account for what holds us together, we should consider whatever kept us apart or works to keep us apart. And this brings me to the topic of separatism. Heteropatriarchal forms of social organization keep women apart from women, separate women from women, and that, I would say, is unnatural. I spoke at the beginning of creating and maintaining lesbian community, but when I think about the actual activities and behaviors we do, what they mostly add up to is not building something, but just clearing space for something. Almost all the organizing adds up to nothing more than making space and getting a whole bunch of lesbians in that space all at once. That is, we separate lesbians from separation from each other, and then community happens. It is anarchic, often strife ridden and stressful, not always fun, not always affirming of whatever we think about things or about ourselves. But it's also just normal things for women to be in lesbian community with each other. It doesn't have to be explained. Now, what about the suicide? It is terribly sad and awful, and I grieve for the life that might have been. It makes everyone wonder what we could or should have done to make living tolerable, not to mention joyful, for that woman. But one of my friends, with whom I disagree about some very important things, noted that in the almost 15 years we've known this community of many hundreds of lesbians, this is only the second suicide she knew of, only the first that I had known of. Before this current era of lesbian feminist consciousness and gay rights, suicide was an epidemic among lesbians. So my older friends have told me. But it is not among us. In the time I have known this community, we have fought and quarreled and trashed and bashed and made love and made hate, had parties and played, and flowed through shifting patterns of affiliation and ostracism, and had powerful feelings of solidarity and powerful feelings of alienation from each other, and put out a zillion newsletters and flyers and organized fundraisers and gossiped, and felt great and felt terrible. The lesbian in my community have survived in large numbers. What I'm saying is that lesbian community is possible. A community that is quote unquote separate in the sense that there is a lesbian center of gravity, or of hilarity perhaps, a force field in which natural lesbian connection happens, which sustains and protects lesbians in many ways and varying degrees from the ravages of misogyny and heterosexualism, even for some, and in some ways, from the violence of racism and poverty. In my community, lesbians don't agree about everything, and lesbians survive in droves.